Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Cryosphere podcast. We have been on a very long hiatus, but we have returned. And this time, instead of having a guest, we actually have the four awesome members of the Cryosphere team. I am, of course, Max Marty, whom you all know, Becca Ziegler, who you have met several times on here, our returning host, Daniel Walters, whom you also know, and perhaps the one who you haven't seen as much of on this podcast, Eric Magro, who has been with us for a long time and is one of the hearts and souls of the Cryosphere team, who you now get to know a little.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, how does it feel to be the mystery man, Eric? This is a lot of pressure. All the eyes are on you now.
I got away with it as long as I could, and then when Max threw me out
we
in
did a
front of
video
everyone.
a while back. Eric was on it.
Yeah.
Was I? Oh,
Yeah.
Been a while?
But I think that was like,
it was like a few years back, like right after the Alcor
still
50th
online?
anniversary.
Yeah, it was like we were talking about I think it was, we were talking about like books we liked, and
Yep.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that still online? I don't know.
It's got to be some. It's probably on YouTube.
I think I've seen it.
We'll put a link
somewhere,
to it
but,
if we find
yeah.
it. How about that?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, but essentially,
you
we are
weren't there,
kind
but
of trying to emulate the spirit of that kind of original video, where it was a little bit more casual, chatting with each other and about ideas, and do a bit more of that and see if anybody likes it, or if this is going to be like a 2-3 episode thing and then never again.
Yep, and here is Eric unzipping his fly for the second time to the internet here
Is this
for
being
all
edited?
of us.
This is edited, right?
Yeah.
What is going on?
What a
This is
weird
what you
analogy.
do in the Cryonics
Metaphorically.
Underground? This is the Cryonics Underground.
People are dropping off as we speak.
Yeah, I was like, wait, I don't want to see that. Eric, there is a topic that I know that you're very you've been intertwined with. You've been working on.
Okay, but I've been working on. Okay. Well, to be clear, I haven't been working on it at all in really any capacity. But I have learned a little bit about it. And I was just at ARDD, Aging Bio Conference in Copenhagen, and there was some talks. It wasn't highlighted or anything at the conference. It's a little bit. It's not like the focus of the mainstream longevity world and academia or industry at all, but it's interesting. And yeah, there were some people there talking about it. There's like different levels of replacement. So like you can think about like replacement at the cell level, using things like introducing stem cell derived or engineered cells to repopulate tissue, or tissue level replacements, like replacing organs. Some people are working on like bioprinting or tissue engineering, xenotransplantation. Then there's we're trying to replace larger things like up to whole bodies. So yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty cool technology. A cool way of thinking about dealing with aging, because at least, yeah, if you want to like grow parts, I mean, bodies grow organs. So you don't have to, if you could just grow organs, then you might not have to necessarily figure out how to reverse aging or prevent aging, and then you could just replace them.
Do you get the sense that the people that are working on the more extreme, like whole body replacement kind of thing, do they expect that to be around in their lifetime? Or is this something like they're beginning this research and maybe a few generations from now it'll be available?
I really don't know what their sense is. I haven't asked anybody, but I do think that generally I think people think it's an easier problem than solving aging. And it's a difficult position to be in now, because I think we're like, we see the light at the end of the tunnel, and we will have people who have much longer lifespans. Not that far from now. I mean, maybe they're being born now. Maybe it's the next generation to be born. But we're getting closer to solving a lot of these problems. but yeah, we're still not quite there. So I don't really know what people's timelines are. I don't know enough about the topic to have any of my own. But and even cryonics, there's I mean so many things we have to improve and solve, and I mean issues with perfusion and CPAs and toxicity and all this.
Can I just ask a clarifying question, Eric? When we talk about replacement, then we're talking about replacing anything in the body from the very smallest aspects of the human body, like you said, cells. Replacing specific cells to replacing organs to replacing multiple organs to replacing whole bodies. And we're talking about doing it either with your own cells, maybe grown in some way and then added back in, etc., or maybe biological cells from some other organism, or even fully synthetic, right? So like replacing your heart with a pump that does the same operation. All of those things, do all of those things count as replacement?
I think they do. I mean, it might depend on who you talk to. But I would count all those like different levels, and then like yeah, like your same tissue, other like but like not related but biological, and then yeah, like synthetic. And there are people working on all those things. And yeah, I think they probably fall under. I think a lot of people would agree they are all under sort of like this the replacement umbrella. Yeah.
Uh,
So
I
what's
feel
up?
like you're being too humble, Eric. You're almost
Humble.
like, oh, I don't know anything about this, or
Well,
I don't know any of these people. I was with you when you held the premier replacement uh, uh, meeting in Berkeley, California, with all the big people in replacement. So I'm not sure what the hell you're talking
Well,
about.
I'm just saying I'm not working on it, right? I'm just
Yeah,
like, I help people in various
yeah, you're not in a
ways.
lab, but bringing the community together, as we
I've done
know,
some
is
things. I mean, I
integral
agree. I've
to
done some things.
success.
Yeah, I think Replacement Day was great. I think it was a great success. Yeah, and the person who ran the replacement portion of ARDD, Sierra, she was very impressive, did a great job. And I think that was the first time that there was like a public replacement conference at an aging or like public replacement like panel and talks at an aging mainstream aging conference. Because yeah, the one that we did was just for people in the industry.
Oh,
It was invite
and
only.
so you mentioned where it was held, but you didn't elaborate. Does where it was held have anything at all to do with us in any way going forward now or in the future?
I don't
Our
remember.
cryosphere
Is it?
group
Does
that you'd like to
anybody
mention?
have? Well, so yeah, so it happened in Berkeley, and yeah, so people watching this, I mean, I hope we all remember. You all remember we ran the Cryonics conference, right? And because it's like feels like ages ago in Miami, Global Cryonics
Hmm.
Summit. We did the Global Cryonics Summit in the summer in Miami in 2024, and yeah, we're gonna do the next Global Cryonics Summit at Vitalist Bay, which is where we did the replacement conference earlier this year. I think it was in May 2025. But we're going to be doing Global Chronic Summit Part 2 at Vitalist Bay in Berkeley in May 2026. And I think that's what you want me to. That's the.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty much.
So.
Yeah, and
Is this the first official announcement here?
it's not an official announcement. We will have dates very, very shortly to you. We've been saying that for a while, but these things are hard to get set up, so bear with us. We will make an official announcement, and everybody who needs to know will be made aware once we do so. But
Everyone who
consider
needs
it
to
a
know.
teaser. Yeah.
Okay. Well, who's going to decide who needs to know?
I think everybody in Chronics needs to know. Anybody
Oh, okay.
in or adjacent to Chronics,
Adjacent.
or adjacent to the people adjacent to
And
Chronics.
everybody talks about
Mm,
people being
yeah,
adjacent, and it's like I don't know
at least
like
4
who those
degrees of
people
separation
are.
that people need to come.
Who were the adjacent people to cry? Who
Listen,
are
all of
they?
our listeners, they're all very important people. They all matter so much in chronics. They're all going to know. Yeah, and I think we should tease, even if we don't have the final dates yet. I think it's going to be an exciting move to put it in Berkeley in this like Light Haven location. This year they had a DEXA scan there. There was a sauna bus. There was like different places where you could get your blood drawn for some funky tests. I don't know. Is the plan, Eric, that all that's going to be there as well next year?
I think they're going to try to do all the good stuff plus more good stuff. So yeah, I think the sauna bus is still there. Actually, I don't think it ever left, and I expect a lot of the same sponsors to be there. So yeah, I expect all of that plus more. So it's going to be super exciting. You're going to get your blood drawn for funky tests, maybe more. Will be available by then.
Can we start getting some things replaced at the time, Eric? And maybe
Yeah,
you.
maybe.
Hope so. I hope we're that close. I hope I could get some new organs. Mine are already getting. They might have been used quite a bit.
I
But
don't think I'm
I'm
ready for a
not.
whole body replacement yet, though. That one's
I
maybe
don't
maybe the
think
year after.
it could be, but I'm not going to hold my breath for
And
that.
what year would you choose if you could get like a new body at a certain age? What's the peak?
Like when do I want my new body?
No, just like what? How old would you want your new body to be? Do you want like your 16-year-old body
Oh,
back? Do you want your 25-year-old body back? What are you thinking?
maybe 20 seems okay. 18, 20. That seems fine. 30, really? 30? Why? Then you
Yeah,
need
but
a new
30,
one
then you're only
sooner.
going up from there, right? Like,
Oh, I
yeah.
thought you meant like you get the new one and then that one like kind of stays. That doesn't age.
Ah,
That's
I
what
see.
that's what I
No.
thought.
okay.
In
That's
which
the
case,
more sci-fi. No, I'm being serious. Okay, replacement might be there one day, and it's not going to be. It's not
Yeah.
going to be an immortal body. It will age again. Okay, we got to think about these things.
Well, then can't you just replace it again? Like you just.
yeah.
Every
Well,
year?
unless we
No,
solve
no, no,
aging.
no. That's too much. 10 years.
Okay.
25 to 35, then 25 to 35. How about that? That portion. I'll
Every
stay there.
5 years, you want a new body, Max?
No, 25 to 35. 10
Oh,
years.
10 years. Oh, okay.
What, is that
Sorry.
too
So
much to
every
ask?
2 years. I mean, it's just a lot.
But
It's a lot of surgery.
if I had to though choose like at what age I want my new body, I would say like whatever body I have right now because I'm in peak physical condition. And so I think this one here for people who are just listening on audio, you can't see how impressive it is, but
So what's your deadlift? Yeah, what's your record?
I think
Your knees gave out when you bent down to pet my cat that one day. I don't know that you want
I
that.
don't know what you're talking about. My knees, I jump from large heights onto concrete just for breakfast.
Parkour, that's what you do on the
Yeah, I
weekends.
do parkour.
Breakfast. That's quite
I don't know. I'm overtired. I just got back from the CI
Overtired.
conference. I'm traveling to the
Oh, okay.
annual strategic meeting.
Yeah.
I don't even know what I'm saying right now.
That's okay.
So, Daniel, you were just over at the Cryonics Institute's annual gathering. Can you tell us about it?
Yes, it was called the annual general meeting. Overall, I came out with a very positive view of CI, and feel like I have like a better kind of on the ground understanding of how they function. I
So,
guess. Yeah, go ahead.
was this like a conference or a large meeting of the board that people witnessed? Like, what kind of event was this? I've actually never even heard of this annual CI meeting.
Yeah, it's generally, I think they hold it yearly, and it's essentially where they do their, it's like a mini conference. Although it was relatively well attended, so it wasn't so mini.
What does that mean? Like 100 people, 200 people?
Yeah, somewhere I think 60 to 100. I didn't do a head count, but probably that would be fair, 60 to 100 somewhere. Which is a good gathering for any group of Cryonicists. We're a small bunch of people. But yeah, they do it every year. They hold their board, their voting for board members. I believe every like 4 members were up this year for re-election. And so they hold their board, they hold the voting before, and then during the conference they just announce the winners, and if anybody was replaced by a new challenger. But essentially we did the tour. We had dinner with a bunch of people, a bunch of CI members. I had met the first night we were there, some of the new board members that were running. Someone in particular that stood out to me was Steve LaBelle. So he had been kind of campaigning for the CI board, I think more so than anybody else in the recent past, and I had a chance to sit down with him and kind of have a long chat about his thoughts and ambitions for CI, and I don't know, I was very impressed by him.
Did he get
Yeah,
the spot?
yes, he
Okay.
did.
And
I was gonna
who
unveil
did he
that.
steal it from? Because you have to kick
Uh,
somebody off,
he
right?
he did not steal it from anybody, but
Of
the
course.
CI members, through the democratic process,
Hmm.
elected him
Fair and free
and
elections,
replaced.
right?
Yeah, stealing suggests it belongs
So-
to somebody else, but it doesn't
right.
belong
I'm
to them.
sorry. My apologies.
he
Who
they
who
put
no longer has a seat because he is such a wonderful candidate.
so
Let's put it that
they
way.
put Steve LaBelle and Nicholas Vandermeulen in a ring together, and they had a fight
Hmm.
to the death.
Oh
And
no.
Steve,
Hopefully not
uh,
information theoretic death. Okay.
no,
Sorry.
they were
Shitty
cryopreserved.
joke.
We were right on site. It all worked out. Surprisingly, Steve's uh, an a bit older than Nicholas Vandermeulen, so it's surprising that he came out on top there.
Do you know what the board at CI is mainly doing? Because the impression I get from CI is that they're a relatively no frills organization. They keep things pretty low cost, pretty low key. You don't hear that much from them. There's not that much changing, but it's possible that's just because they kind of stay out of the media and there's a lot going on behind the scenes. So,
Hmm.
what is the board doing? What's changing at CI?
I think the kind of staying out of the limelight a little bit actually has been somewhat of their MO, somewhat purposefully. The one thing you do notice, and that they're very proud of when talk about when they're there, is that they do run a very small, tight ship, and that they don't, have a lot of extraneous expenses, and that they kind of really focus on their core niche of, being like a really good storage facility and I yeah, I would say that's fair. I don't think they would be bothered by that type of characterization. I think they're proud of how tight it all runs, and that it's not like this sprawling operation. Um, but I would say that, some of the newer people on the board, Steve LaBelle now, Lauren Fosco, who I think became a board member either last year. I think they're have some great ideas. I think they're very ambitious. So I could totally see some increased appetite for change at CI. So I'm looking forward to that, because I don't think everybody necessarily agrees with the more slow paced kind of way they've done in the past. Even though I think, you can have your cake and eat it too to some extent. But yeah, I'm looking forward to see how it kind of plays out.
Although maybe there's some benefit in the industry to having the one that's a little bit more. I mean, you could think of like Tomorrow Bio is maybe the fastest paced one, or has been, because it's been starting up and new. Alcor has been gaining speed and becoming more fast paced and is now behind there. And then CI is still the one that's the slow paced one. So maybe it's just
Mm.
this is good because it's like you have, depending on what kind of cryonicist you are, you have your choice of which one you feel most comfortable with, and that's the one you go for.
Yeah.
Yeah, although I
I,
think there are things that they could do that have nothing to do with pace or being out in the media that I would see as improvements. Like the biggest concern I would say that I have for CI is the kind of lack of quality assurance because they don't do any of the CT scan stuff. And I would like to see that change because I understand the value. They're the cheapest. I think it's really important that there is a provider that can offer cryonics storage if you cannot afford any of the other options. But man, if you really have no idea what quality these people are coming in at, like, you have no idea how viable of an option this is. And maybe it's all fine, but we just don't know. And that's something that they could change without necessarily putting themselves at any risk of media interference. I can imagine that their objection might be that because they don't provide the standby, there's not that much that they can do about it, which is true. Like if it turns out the quality isn't great it's not really their fault, but it would kind of get pinned on them in some ways, and
Mm.
reflect poorly on make people less likely to choose them. So I understand there is risk associated with CI if they start quality assurance and it turns out to not be great. But alternatively, that also means you can put higher pressure on the SST providers, or at least show the difference between when a funeral director is doing the case versus one of the third-party contractors. Because I think, to my understanding, there are a decent amount of CI members that don't have SST arrangements. They do end up just getting kind of pumped with a funeral director, and maybe the reason they're doing that is because they don't understand how much of a difference that can make in quality.
I think they do understand. I mean, they use a third party provider as an option now.
Well, I
Suspended
think CI
animation.
understands. I don't know that
Yeah.
that CI
Oh, the
members.
members. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, it is something I took up with a couple of people at CI. And there were mixed feelings about this, but kind of something I've thought for a while now. They market their pricing as $28,000, but that's without any SST. With SST, it's closer, closer to like almost 80K. Like I think it's 78 to 80K or something like that. Maybe even a little bit more. Which still makes it a budget option. That's essentially the same price as an Alcor neuropreservation. So it's still and they're doing whole body, so it's still a good option. But when you say 28K, a lot of members come into that, and this is from firsthand experience, and I'm sure you guys have seen some of this too. They'll be like, oh, I paid my 28K or have my insurance plan for 28K. I'm all good, right? And they don't really, and a handful of them don't really know that SST. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, is practically mandatory. Like, no offense
Yeah.
to anybody who thinks they can do it themselves, or if they have a family member and they think they're gonna be able to do it and get, you have to get for that 28K, you have to get someone to CI's doorstep, right? And that's like a nightmare without like professional SST services. So my disagreement is that marketing it, like bifurcating the two prices, is misleading to their members, because and then they're gonna have to shock them later on anyway and tell them like, hey, you really should do this SST. But I think it's SST is like almost so important that I just really feel it should be bundled. It just doesn't make sense to do cryonics without SST. It's
Daniel, do you know if do CI members end up just paying for it, when the time comes and getting the SST that they need, or does that sticker shock at some point in life mean that they drop off and they're no longer members, or they switch providers, or what happens like with that?
So from what I understand, and if anybody from CI is watching or listening to this, feel free to fact check me. I'm not an expert on that, but just from what I'm gathering, they have like a higher number of straight freezes for this reason. But also they are trying to push for people to sign up for the third party SST. And if I remember, one of the facts they had in one of the presentations at the meeting, they had a certain number of members who are signing up for that, but not as many as they'd like. So I think they're aware that they want more members to get involved in SST. For me, I think just the problem is really the offering it at 28K, because I just think it's sending the wrong message right off the bat. And then they're having to reverse the message later. And everybody knows that's like harder to, once people have something in their mind, they're going around thinking, I have cryonics, I'm a cryonics member, I have everything I need, set it and forget it. And we all know that's not actually how you get a good cryopreservation, is by just getting a membership and then not thinking about it until you're on your deathbed. So yeah, in my opinion, I feel like they could benefit from actually not offering the 28K. I already know they would disagree with that because of like, we're giving people options. Like, and maybe you can give it as an option, but maybe make it like a kind of like a secret menu kind of option, where it's like if someone really needs it or they just absolutely cannot afford the SST, and then you let them know. But yeah, overall, I thought it was very fun. There's a handful of people in the CI ecosystem that I knew about, but got to meet in person. And I mean, the one thing I will say is, based off of, having been a lot around Alcor members and then a lot around Tomorrow Bio members, and now being a lot around even some of the more local Michigan CI members, the one thing we all have in common is that cryonicists are super fucking weird. Like just weird group of people. Just super interesting, quirky, very the same things we could all kind of define ourselves as to some extent. Very independent minded, probably you could say stubborn to some extent. Not appealing to authority, all the things that I think
I
generally
love
you
authority. I'm a big institutional shell. Okay, speak for
okay.
yourself.
Okay. Except for Becca's an outlier.
Yeah.
But all the rest of us are
I'm a
cowboys.
big fan of the establishment because nobody else is. It's very
Yeah.
counterculture of me.
But I just half joking there. But for the most part, even more interesting is, yeah, we just have a lot in common. And I just noticed that, I thought the kind of same thing when I first went to Tomorrow Bio, and I'd be like, oh, they're Europeans, they're going to be so different. And they weren't, they were speaking different languages. But then you get into conversations with them, and it's the same kinds of conversations, the same like super intellectual, very interesting, extremely curious. That's probably the biggest thing I found about Cryonicists is the curiosity. Just talk about everything and anything, just very wide ranging intellect. Um, and I'm trying to think if I can spot any differences that wouldn't be
One
considered
difference,
offensive.
one difference I've noticed,
Mm,
or I think I've noticed, is that chronicists seem to have fewer kids. And I
mm,
wonder if you have any pet theories about why this might be the case. Do you think it's because the type of people that are predisposed to be cryonicists are less likely to have kids, or is that once people have kids, they're less likely to become
mm.
cryonicists?
Yeah, I have some theories. How do I? So I feel like these theories could come across as offensive or salty. So let me think about how to diplomatically.
Do we know that this is
So,
really true, though? Like, I can't remember from the survey, but I mean, it could just be that the most vocal and public facing cryonicists and the ones that are actually involved with the organizations don't have a lot of kids on average. But the ones that are just signed up members and don't show up to these meetings and don't, come to the Discord server or whatever, those are the ones with the kids. So do we know this is a real phenomenon before we try to explain it?
I mean, I can't say for certain that it is, to be fair. Like, I have not done the study on this, but I will say of the people that I've met that don't even work necessarily in cryonics, just attendees at the conferences or people I've met online, I think I know like 2 cryonicists that have kids. It's
yeah,
very, like, it feels very low. And yeah, I don't have a study, but I have met a lot of cryonicists at this point. There does seem to be something going on there.
yeah, I would echo Becca's observation, and I'd put money on it even without knowing factually, just from, in the same way, just from having met so many that is the case. Like, significantly fewer children on average, I would say. Um, I mean, I guess one part of the theory is like one thing I would theorize is you have a higher average of chronicists who are on the spectrum. Um, I would have to look at the stats of people on the spectrum to see if they're more or less likely to get married and have kids, but that seems observationally to be somewhat more the case. Um, could be something like similar to, you guys know the reference from Idiocracy, where really intellectual people are always kind of reasoning why it's not the right time to have kids. There's always some like good financial reason. Oh, we'll wait later and later. It's kind of like an urbanization issue as well. But chronicists are pretty intellectual, and they have careers, and it might have something to do with just kind of pushing it back for a while. Um,
I imagine that some people might look at the chronicists from the outside, the normies might think it's probably because people that are into chronics are just more selfish, right? If you want to live
mm,
forever, that's because you think about yourself a lot. And if you think about yourself a lot, um, you're less likely to want to have children.
That sounds like a
yeah.
great deal of cope. Like there's a lot of people who have kids who Definitely are having them for their own purposes, right? To like fulfill some goal of their family or some to make just because it's the thing you do, and then later on they'll justify it through all kinds of I'm contributing to the world or something like that. Yeah, I don't know. I would think if this really is a true phenomenon, it's probably explained by more basic things about the kinds of careers that cryonics tends to draw from. Like it's a correlation, not. There's no reason why cryonicists themselves would necessarily have fewer kids. They just happen to be correlated with a bunch of other things that results in people having fewer.
Maybe, although I kind of think Becca's onto something there with the legacy issue, like, and this might all be unconscious, and like regular people, they believe they're going to die, which if they don't do chronics, it's likely that they will and always have. And so, part of, aside from just a straight up like biological imperative that people are, naturally ingrained with to reproduce, I don't, the legacy aspect isn't as important as chronics for chronicists because, Becca, you called it selfish. I would call it more I guess technically it's slightly more selfish, but the idea would be that they're not looking, they're looking to preserve themselves, and the legacy aspect of preserving themselves doesn't seem like a valuable option consciously or unconsciously, because it's not just people having kids, it's them wanting to write books and leave a lasting memory and make something that people will remember. And, there's all types of it, not just people don't just people want to leave all types of legacies. But
Right.
you talk to chronicists and it's like, don't care as much about leaving a legacy. They just want to exist in the future. Forget the legacy. They just want to be there. Right. And so
Is that
Yeah.
true? Wait what? I don't think that's true. Wait a minute. Why would cryonicists? There's so many cryonicists are building amazing things, products, companies, ideas. They're writers. I don't know that. Certainly, when you compare it with the general population, I don't know that the statement cryonicists care less about doing things that like impact, that leave a legacy. On the contrary, I would say it's more important for a cryonicist to do things that resonate, that echo out into the future, because they themselves will potentially be there to witness the growth. It's like, as a cryonicist, you want to plant the seed of a redwood tree in your backyard because you might actually get to see when that redwood tree is hundreds of feet high. Whereas if we're going to die in 20, 30, 40, 50 years, 60 years, whatever, you wouldn't. You'd only see it when it's a little, still a middling tree, right? So like it matters more for us.
Yeah, I didn't mean the actual impact. I mean the feeling of having left a legacy.
Yeah, because I think logically you may be very correct, Max, but I think you may overestimate how much humans are functioning on logic in this case.
We cryonicists are very logical, though. We're more rational.
Sure, but the point is, like, other people, we're not saying that like people that want to have legacy unconsciously through children are less likely to want to have legacy in other ways through success. Like, that doesn't seem to be the case, but there can be something in the background where if cryonicists think of themselves as something that will continue to exist, or they certainly hope to, that there's less of this unconscious need to have children. Because in some ways children are a legacy. Like, I can understand that argument.
Yeah. They're the most literal interpretation of legacy. They're literally the genetic.
And that's not the only reason you have kids, right? So lots of people decide to have kids for other reasons. But if it removes maybe one unconscious component, that could lead to statistically significant differences.
Yeah, I think because I know we could debate this back and forth forever. I would say if we want to give the least charitable interpretation, let's just say cryonicists are all a bunch of nerds, and nobody wants to reproduce with them, and that's why we don't have kids.
Yeah.
Wait. People don't want to reproduce with nerds? Okay. Oh, all right. We'll leave it there. I don't know that I would fully agree with that, but there is something else, Daniel, that is coming up. Another big meeting, another important organization that is going to be talking about some big things coming up. Can you give us any sort of preview on what that's going to be like?
Could you elaborate? I have no idea what you're talking about.
I think it was one of the smaller orgs. Maybe it was Southern Cryonics. Maybe they're having some kind of.
No, I remember now. Yeah. So the Alcor annual strategic meeting. I've been confusing myself because I just came back from the annual general meeting at CI, so I've been having to like juggle those two acronyms in my head. It's actually fast upcoming. Hopefully, we will actually get this podcast out in time. But if for some reason we didn't and it has passed already, then we were lazy and did not get it out with expeditiously. But the annual strategic meeting is happening at Alcor this Saturday, September 13th at 11 a.m. Arizona time. All the board members and employees will be there, myself included, although it is virtual for the members. And I will include a link to the virtual meeting in the show notes here. It's essentially Alcor's kind of mini conference event. We'll big announcements, kind of updates from all the different departments, a review of some of the stuff that's happened in 2025 that's notable, discussing what's going to go down in 2026 and some plans and goals there. And yeah, it's pretty much all Alcor members or people interested in Alcor should probably tune in and get an idea what's going down. I think the biggest announcement that I'm excited about is the announcement, and I won't really elaborate much here because we'll go a lot more into it at the annual strategic meeting, is the brand new Alcor website and the brand new Alcor member portal. I really can't talk about it more. I'm going to end up waxing and waning because I'm quite excited. So I'll give away too much if you force me to talk about it. But it's freaking awesome. And yeah, go to the watch the strategic meeting to get some of the updates, and we'll go from there. Anybody can join. So yeah, if you're a member, yeah, you have more reason to be there. And kind of take a look at it. But if you just follow Alcor or prospective member or thinking about joining Alcor, check it out as well, because there'll be plenty of interesting stuff.
Well, there is one thing, unless anybody has something else they want to jump in with, but there's one thing I want to kind of close us off on, which is since we're talking about very sci-fi futures, I read the Bobiverse series, book 1, We Are Legion, We Are Bob. I'll put a link to it down below. My new favorite sci-fi book. And I was a big fan of like Project Hail Mary and that. But this one, the Bobiverse series, takes the cake. I will just say that I don't want to spoil too much, but in the beginning, the first few pages, we have a proper accounting of cryonics. Like the guy in the first few pages signs up for cryonics, and the way it's described by the author is accurate as to how cryonics actually works. And then almost immediately after signing up, within days, he gets hit by a car. And then it's not much of a spoiler. Anything that happens in the first pages, I don't consider a spoiler. But let's just say the scenarios described are super cool. You get to, reading through the series, von Neumann probes and alien planets and life forms, and what I've come to realize is called competence porn. This is when you see people doing things intelligently and thinking through problems strategically and smartly, and then describing them in a scientifically valid, engineeringly interesting way. For people who saw the movie The Martian, that's there's parallels here. Super cool. I think any cryonicist would love it. Highly recommended. Link will be down below. This isn't a money-making thing. I'm not being paid by the author, but trust me, it was like game-changing. I loved it.
All right, so we're ending on a note proving that cronicists are in fact nerds. All right, good place to stop. Thanks, Max.
And that's not the first time I've heard other people say that. Is it good enough? So I stopped reading fiction a while ago. Is it good enough to bring me out of fiction retirement?
It was for me. I don't like fiction. I generally don't like reading fiction. I do make some exceptions, but they're quite rare. Like I said, The Martian, Project Hail Mary. Um, but for this, I read, let's just say, I don't like reading much fiction. I'm a big nonfiction guy, and I have read through all the books in the series. I think it's 5 books now. It's like a big epic. Um, let's just say it gets very, very sci-fi space epic as you keep going through the series. And uploading questions and the ethical questions that come up philosophically for all that, alongside the science of moving stars and interplanetary species and all these things. You get to actually work through those problems with an author who's not, his side gig is not working on romance novels or something. This guy's serious. I think he's a computer scientist. Yes, it will pull you out of your retirement in terms of reading fiction. I would at least give the first book a shot. Read it for a while. And if you find it interesting, I think you'd find the whole series interesting. So highly recommend it. And it's on Audible. You could just listen to it, like while you're doing something else anyway.
Yeah, that increases the chances that I will actually consume that content.
Cool. Well, with that, folks, we are happy you joined us for this foray back into the Cryosphere podcast. We will hope to do these again in the future, especially if we get a good reception from you all on this. And we will also be having some more guests on the Cryosphere podcast coming up. We hope to see you all there in the next time. Thank you all for joining me, Daniel, Becca, Eric. Until next time.
Later, guys.
Bye.